on a second thought, maybe I should just start by presenting our moderator for tonight, Brigid OC, who is the head of the market of the DOC Leipzig, and Yianna Sarri, who is the head of the Agora of Thessaloniki International Film Festival, and Angeliki Vergou, who is the head of the Crossroads co-production forum of Thessaloniki International Film Festival. I have to tell you that this is a completely random order, so just feel free not to think anything about that. My wonderful Marjorie Bendeck, who is the head of the cottbus co-production forum and also the pitching expert here in the MFI. And Martina Bleis, whom you already, some of you have met, the co-head of Berlinale Production Forum. And some were here, we have Ove, but I guess that he will connect again. And today we decided to talk about, hello Ove, now I saw you.
Right here.
Yes. We decided to talk a little bit on how we're going to survive in this wave of the digital online markets. And, to discuss a bit on how it has affected the way the market is moving, the filmmakers are moving, and I don't know, prospects of the future. I'm sure that Brigid has a plan. I see Eleni Handrinou joining. You have to know that a lot of people are going to continue to join, but it's not really nice, the awkward moment of just looking at each other. So I really believe that we should try to keep the conversation running, especially with such a wonderful team here. And especially since it's a discussion, and you're all free to pose questions, because that's what basically today is all about. To include you, to give you, the answers that you probably need, because you want to know what's going to happen with your films, where you want to take them to the markets, and how to do that in the short version. So I'm going to give the word to Brigid, and who is the moderator today. And of course, I'm going to include everybody else who wants to say something. I think it's going to be perfectly fine if Brigid, of course, is okay with that.
Yes, I'm perfectly okay.
Okay. Hello, Brigid. We love you very much.
It's so nice to see you all. It's been far too long. I've spent too much time on my couch, I suppose, like everybody else, or at my desk, or in my kitchen table, or sometimes also from my bed now in 1 million Zoom calls, conference calls, pitching for lectures, the whole slate of the usual work that I've been doing over the last 5 months has been from one of those seats and on a Zoom call, unfortunately. So I'm really happy for the invitation to be with you all today, and I'm very happy to moderate this discussion with my esteemed colleagues from my fellow co-production fora or pitching events. So I hope that what we can do today is share with you some insights into the things that we have learned during this time, and also maybe some of the questions we have, because I think that I think Sarah Calderon, who's a marketing expert for IAVE, gave also an information session about planning the Marché du Film, which I guess is the biggest event that's gone through this conversion inside of our field. And one of the things that she said in that session is that one of the main problems we have is that we're landing on these websites and using these tools that we've never used before. So we're actually moving in this completely new geography or landscape and developing and using languages that we're certainly not fluent in. So it's really a very interesting time to be alive if you choose the glass half full approach, and which seems to be the best way to get over, I guess, some of the bitter disappointments of the things that we like about our industry, including that we are by nature very social beings and creatures, and especially coming from the documentary world, it's life is hard enough in our world when we're trying to develop our documentary projects, that we don't need to make the networking and financing level even harder necessarily. But so what I've done today is I thought I would break this session into 3 parts. So the first one is kind of like a little bit of a look back at what we've learned over the first 5 months of this crisis. And so I'll be referring to my dear colleagues from Thessaloniki to describe their process of converting the market to this online offering. And then I thought we can tell you a little bit now about like what our experience has been in these events, how you can put your projects kind of on the best ground or in the best footing in order to navigate these digital markets. What's a good use of your time versus maybe what's a waste of your time, as I'm sure we're all looking for efficiency, especially in the summer. And then finally give you like a little bit of an overview about what we have planned for Doc Leipzig, for Coco, for the upcoming Crossroads edition, and of course for the Berlinale in February. So maybe I will start with Yianna. There you are, I see you there, and Ove, and you can tell us a little bit like, so we all came back from the Berlinale thinking that life would be normal. When did you make the decision to move Thessaloniki online, and how long did you have for the conversion?
Well, we came back from Berlinale on Wednesday, I think it was. And on Sunday, we had to make the decision to go online because 3 days later, the festival was supposed to start in Thessaloniki. So that was the 5th of March. So we really had to make the decision on Sunday and to do everything from Monday to Wednesday, I think, right, Ove? So we had to speak with everybody to see if they agreed, to make a plan, to organize, you know, the sessions and all the technical stuff. But I think that the good thing it was that we didn't have any time to think about it. So it was, you know, an immediate reaction, and we just did it. I think that if we had to think about it, we could never do it. So.
And you never considered to cancel or postpone the festival?
No. Because we wanted to, you know, to give the opportunity to the projects that trusted their work to us, to promote their work and to show it, because it was going to be, you know, a disaster if we decided to cancel. And people were already, you know, prepared to come to Thessaloniki, to fly to Thessaloniki to make the presentations and the meetings and everything. And we didn't want to miss that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that, like, I'd like to maybe just look and talk about this promotion element, you know. So you see the role of, what do you think makes like Thessaloniki like idiosyncratic? What makes Thessaloniki like the Agora market different to Doc Leipzig or to IDFA, or like, what do you think is, what makes your markets kind of special in the landscape, do you think, in a normal year?
Well, one thing is that we have a focus on specific countries of our region. So we accept the projects from the Balkans, from the Mediterranean, and we also added from last year Georgia, Ukraine, and one Angeliki remembers.
So it's Georgia, Armenia, Moldavia, and Ukraine.
Yeah. So that's one thing that we have a focus on this country. So, you know, the professionals come to Thessaloniki to find projects from this part of the world. And, you know, it's a smaller market, of course, than IDFA. So it's much more easy to meet people and to meet the professionals and to have meetings. And it's, you know, people really like Thessaloniki because also the venue is, it's very nice. So it's really attractive to everybody. So they keep, you know, coming back because they know that they will find interesting projects in a nice environment, let's say, very friendly and very cozy.
And did that kind of become the core activities that you wanted to like keep? You know, when I was thinking about like how we would digitize the industry platform of Leipzig, it was like, okay, I want to make sure that I keep these three, but I also had much more time to plan, 6 months. Like I want to keep, not 3 days, keep these 3 or 4 core parts of my work, which is also like, I want to keep access for the very creative projects and make it like relaxed and all of these things. Did you sit down in the 3 days and decide, okay, this has our first priority and the rest we just have to forget about? Or
Yeah, well, we have, the Agora has a specific structure. So we have, for example, in Thessaloniki Film Festival in November, but the same goes also for March. We have the co-production market, the works in progress, and the film market with the finished films. So that's the core actions of our market. And apart from that, we also organize many parallel events that are running every year, and we try to add more things every year. So because we didn't have any time to think about it, we decided to go with these 3 major parts of the Agora. And it was, I think that it was a mess during that time, as you all remember, with the quarantines. We couldn't go out of our houses for some time. So it was really difficult to try to organize all the other things that we were planning. And to tell you the truth, this year, during March, we planned several new things that we didn't have the time to make online. But we hope that we will in November.
yeah.
So that was the idea, to go with these 3 and then to try to find a way, if it was possible, to make the others, but it wasn't really possible to go also with the others.
If I only say just one thing, I want to congratulate you for the reflexes, because it was really close to I also was in Berlinale, and there was the first days of March, nobody knew it was going to be such a lockdown. So you were really fast. And this actually helped in the lack of spread, of the COVID. So, and you actually were, very good for my feeling was very good for the activities.
Can I say? I think it was, when Yianna, when our artistic director and together with the group, and Yianna said that we can do the market online. I think she called Ove to ask him if we can do the pitching forum. Ove said yes. And immediately, I think one of the things that really helped us, because back then Zoom was like, nobody was, almost nobody was using Zoom. So we also want, our technical department was very helpful. They did, I think, for each pitching forum group, 2 to 3 tests before the actual event. And the most amazing part was that people from Canada, connected with us at 3 o'clock of their morning to be part of the pitch. So the industry came together to support basically the first online market. And it was really, it was really inspiring, actually.
Yeah, I think if I recall correctly, like you guys were really the first to announce that you would digitize. So it's really also very courageous, especially, and whereas other markets had a different kind of statement. But then maybe this is a good moment also to talk about the collaboration that you have with Thessaloniki Ove. And because I know also you were one of the or the EDN was offering the online pitching like in the past. So you had been more familiar, let's say, with this world.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I immediately reacted to Yianna the way I did and said, of course we can do it online, because I have been organizing online pitches for the last 10 years. And when I started doing it, people thought that it was not possible and that I was a little bit crazy. But fast forward 10 years and you can guess what happened to my inbox in March when everybody needed online pitching. But that's also why we were able to turn it around pretty quickly, because we had a format and we had a formula that we knew would work. So that's why, even though I think Yianna called me on Monday and the pitching forum was starting on Friday, it was something that we could fairly easily manage, and because we had a format that we knew would work.
Yeah. And do you think that the format translates across genres too, or do you think it's a formula that specifically works for docs?
I think it translates genres, because I've been doing it also with things that are not only documentary, but also fiction and animation. And I mean, it works. Of course, it's not the same as being together in one room. We all know that. But I think it also comes down to a choice. Do we want to let this whole virus stop us, or do we want to continue doing the best possible that we can?
Yeah.
And I think we just have to do the best we can.
Absolutely. And what do you see as like, so you had a formula in March, and do you think that there's already been developments or progressions on that formula happening? Have you seen good examples over the last months, or have you just changed your own work in certain ways, or do you have like a similar approach?
I more or less have a similar approach, because there are certain things that I choose not to do online. Like if you had an on-site pitch, you would always show trailers or mood boards or whatever you have available. And I choose generally not to do that online, because the quality inside Zoom is not very good. Mm-hmm. So for the quality of filmmaking, I tend to do online pitching without showing visual material. So people have to see everything beforehand.
Yeah.
And then that leaves more time for people to talk.
Yeah.
Which is needed, because you need a bit more time to actually get to know each other online, because it is a different way of working.
Yeah, yeah. But I had very good experience. I had a very good experience also that I found very like uplifting at Vision de Riel, where they also had a slightly longer turnaround. I think their dates are at the end of April or mid-April. So they had like, let's say 1 month to change. And at the pitching forum itself was kind of very like clunky, but then in the kind of the last session, they just put us into random breakout rooms with random people. And I found it very uplifting to see everyone, especially at these smaller bespoke events that are more, where you do kind of know everyone, or you have 80% of the people there. And so for the 20% of newcomers having like the first experience, you also have more understanding maybe. So I think that there are reasons also to look at this stuff optimistically, even if, I'm what they call an elder millennial. belong to the millennial generation. I was born in 1985, but actually I'm not like a digital native on any level. I am a completely analog person. So it's really interesting that there are kind of these stereotypes of like young people being very agile in the digital space and older people having a harder time, but I think that it's actually like incorrect. I think it's about like where you come from and what your access to the internet has been like. And also for the European Women's Audiovisual Network, of which there are many also Greek members, we've been also organizing Zoom networking events because we knew that women are marginalized at industry events. So we were trying to create more opportunities without having to make more travel. So I really think it will be interesting to see who is like not the winner in this crisis, but who has maybe like an easier time in this adaptation process. But then, so maybe I ask my colleagues from the other markets. Maybe I start with you, Marjorie. I see you smiling and nodding down the bottom. So can you tell us, because this is about markets, I mean, an essential part of getting ready for a market, especially a digital market, is of course preparation. So can you tell us a little bit about how you organize the projects for their presentation this year in the training, and what makes it different from an offline version? If you don't mind to share your secrets with us.
No, I love sharing secrets. Everybody knows. No, thanks. And it's really good to see everyone here. I mean, speaking about MFI, the preparation usually happens like virtually anyways. You know, we do a lot of emailing beforehand. We have some guidelines. We have some, you know, some people we talk, you know, but we don't really exchange in person. So actually we do the whole prep kind of virtually in other years. and people arrive in Nisiros and then they present their project. You know, we're there and we guide them through the process. But it usually takes from about 9 in the morning till 6, 7 p.m., something like that. So it's a very, very full day. It's very, very intense. There's a lot of feedback. When I was speaking to Eleni about going online this year for MFI, it was like, okay, so I remember Ove having a kind of conversation with Ove about it when he said, keep your dates, please keep your dates, because I'm dying this week somehow, because I'm here, I'm in Locarno, and I'm in Polish days, and I'm doing a lot of things at the same time. I'm trying to read for Coco, and Martinez looking at me like, when are you gonna, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's tough to handle all of these shifts in dates, because you have a yearly plan as a trainer, as an expert, as a reader or whatever, and any shift in any event really breaks your calendar down completely.
Yeah.
So when we were thinking about how to streamline this and also taking into account the kind of healthy time you can spend in front of a computer, which shouldn't be more than like 5-6 hours a day, and thinking MFI, I mean, at least you should, I'm saying should. You know? Thinking about, like, especially taking part in a group session, the concentration dies very quickly. If you're going to be from 9 in the morning till, you know, in 10-hour session, especially if you know that the people who are on site, because MFI is happening hybrid, are going to go to the beautiful beach or to the nice fish restaurant and have their lunch and then come back to the session. So I'm like, we should keep it to the before lunch and like compress the whole thing into 5 hours, and let's see what happens. So, like,
I have to say something there, that Marjorie had a brilliant idea that really fit well in the presentations, which was the pre-recorded pitch, because in the beginning we were thinking about live pitches, and unlike what Ove said, for us it was really important that we showed visuals before the pitch. Sometimes the video is stuck, but people, I mean, it gave a rhythm and it managed to make the thing fast. In a way, because we didn't want the actual conversation to happen during that time, because we had to be short. Thank you, Marjorie.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. No, but that's the thing. When you try to control it, and this is an issue we had. I was also doing pitch training for the DFFB Next Wave group that was presented in Cannes, and we were discussing with Cannes actually, because they were like, everybody was trying to find the format for everything every day. So even the people in Cannes had no idea what tools they were going to use about 2 or 3 weeks before the event happened. So we were really discussing, okay, what are we going to do? What kind of pitching? Are we going to use Zoom? Are we going to use, you know, different platforms? What are we going to do? So basically the idea of having a pre-recorded pitch mixed with the talk, you know, mixed with like a couple of minutes of talking live, it gives you, and I have to say, it's not my idea, because it's for sure it's not my idea. I kind of stole it, so to say. I saw this in Lim, Less is More market, because they have this live, like they have this pitching where they have a video where people tell the plot, and then they have a kind of interview situation when people actually are there and stand up and talk about their project. And I think the video pitch does not transmit that much of the emotions of the person.
Yeah.
So the mixing of like having a video pitch to control the time, you know, you can, the time frame was very controlled, and I was super happy and proud that it really did take 5 hours with one less pause. So it was like kind of like, whoa, we never did this so fast before.
Yeah.
But it was exciting to see it work. You know, it was exciting to see that, and we tested it out in Cannes as well with the Next Wave people, and it was also like to the spot, with the moderator going from moderator to pre-recorded to the person speaking in an interview situation, and then back to the moderator. So it was kind of like a scripted little thing that just kept going and going, rolling and rolling, you know. So it felt okay, and I think here I have a good feeling about it as well. So it gives you a possibility when you pre-record your stuff to train yourself, because you record yourself, you look at yourself, you record yourself, you look at yourself. You did you understand what you just said? And I found many of the plot pitches a lot clearer because of this, and this is the experience I'm having in the one-on-one sessions with the pitch
On
afterwards?
our part, I think we're going to keep the pre-recorded pitches regardless of the live or the online version. And I think we definitely need to check for things we're going to keep the next day after the COVID. And the pre-recorded pitch is definitely on the book. It really helps.
And people come more prepared, I feel. Like, I think
Yes.
you force people to prepare more. And this is one thing that I have learned in the past few months, that whatever it is, people prepare more for their one-on-one meetings. They prepare more for their pitch. People just really feel, which is probably what you say, Brigid, that people have to, you spend too much time, working, because it's more work, because you prepare a lot more. You can't leave anything to the kind of nice atmosphere, coincidence of just like going with the flow or with the vibe of somebody asking them. You really need to prepare more, and that's more work.
And for people like me who's just, I don't know, I based my whole career on going with the flow. It's been like a rude awakening, I tell you.
Me too.
But, I know, I learned from the best, Marjorie. But it's very, and especially if you take it seriously. I notice, not that everybody doesn't take their work seriously, but there are certainly like events and and organizations that take these things, let's say, more seriously than others. And I don't know. It's just, I called it like this also exponential explosion of work, which is, if you take it seriously, then you have to be prepared and you want your materials to look good. And it doesn't necessarily cost money, but like the time investment to me is enormous. But so Martina also has a question for Ove. Maybe you can just describe for us a little bit more what your formula is. So when you're saying like that you don't show materials in a Zoom conference, I guess that means we're talking about a live pitch rather than a pre-recorded pitch.
Yes, the only reason that we don't show any material is simply because of filmic quality. That often when people have edited a trailer or a pilot, and if you show it inside the Zoom system, the filmic quality is not what it should be, and I think it doesn't justify the quality that filmmakers need to have their trailers and pilots watched. It's another thing with a pre-recorded pitch, but if it's actually material from the film, I have been preferring that people can screen that on Vimeo, because that just gives the quality that filmmakers deserve.
Yeah,
so that's why.
And do you keep the 7 minutes? Do you let people talk 7 minutes?
Yes, we kept 7 minutes because we are online and we are not in the same room, so people need a little bit more time to simply create an understanding of who they are and what their aims are with the project.
So Martina, I guess you've also been in a lot of these pitching events over the last months. Have you seen any like standout formats or events that you've really enjoyed?
I would say that I think most events now are evolving as we go. I haven't been to too many pitching events itself, but I was in Serious Mania in the very early times. They also had to switch very fast, and there was not a lot there. Like, you went to the website and then there was a few pre-recorded pitches. Not everybody managed to do one, and then from there you could write a message to someone, and that was it. So there was no like live meetings or online meetings or something like that taking place. And in that, I think some other events that have happened in the past months have been a bit further advanced, because they could enhance the platforms or the softwares that they were working with, so that you can have maybe meetings also scheduled online, and basically having a really up-to-date schedule at all times, being able to arrange meetings quickly via the platform, and then also having links online where you can just connect directly to your meeting. Like they're using that a lot, and they were using that in Udine now for the Focus Asia platform, and that was quite handy, except for the connections that weren't working so well, I found, and I think a lot of people had that experience. So at the moment, I think when you are talking about co-production platforms that also have meetings, included, then it all comes down to a little bit like how can you actually organize meetings in a good way that they can also, I mean, that people can actually see and hear each other well, because obviously Zoom allows that, whereas Jitsi is really problematic for that. And I'm not so sure about the other formats. I mean, most of the other formats that I've tried haven't been like Whereby or Skype. They're okay, but they're not as great. And then also you want it easy for people to connect. Like, for example, in MFI, I like that Eleni sends a reminder now every day for the link, with a link. Because honestly, for my meetings, I was looking in this very long email thread all the time, because like lots of people replied to that and the link was somewhere down there. So I was like, oh, I have to look at this email, which was last replied to by so-and-so, to find the link. And that's also an issue. Like, how do you make it easy? How do you make it feasible for people to connect? And that was, for me, for example, an issue in Cannes. For everyone, I think, who participated, that you had so many different formats and so many different platforms and so many different links that it was sometimes really hard to find the access to the places that you wanted to go to, and also to find out, would I be able to access that panel later on? Will it be recorded, or is it a live session? Can I only see it now? Do I have to go via the pavilion? Do I have to go via the talkie? Do I have to go via Senando or something else? That was a bit much, I have to say, although I enjoyed it.
I think smaller events also have like the advantage there, because we have our offerings are so much more like, what do you say, like on such a smaller scale that there's an easier pivot. So on the one hand, I think like it's amazing that Cannes managed to do anything in some senses, because to shift the center is really hard. It's like actually harder than when you're like, you know, I'm on Planet Doc Leipzig and I'm floating in my own galaxy, and I have like a lot of control over everything I do within it. Whereas if you're part of something that's much greater, when you make one decision, it has like a really strong knock-on effect on other parts of these festivals. So I'm sure that's something that you guys at the Berlinale are thinking about as well a lot, when you have like so many sections. But do you also feel like, Marjorie, that when you're speaking maybe more from like a decision-making capacity or as an expert, that your focus is fractured, or do you feel like you are efficiently getting the things done that you need to do?
I think in this crisis, you also have to think about the personal stuff that you have in the background. Because in my case, my focus is like, it's like a shattered glass, basically. I really can't see, because of everything that's going on all the time. I have my kids, and I have no schools, and I have all of these other things going on. And then also the fact that the financing decisions came in very late, for example, for the co-production market, or events changing their dates. I mean, no offense, it's cool that MFI is happening now, but everything just puts you into a whirlpool of things. So my personal focus, I think, is very spread out all over the place. And I think, and I'm happy to say, I took a couple of days offline, completely offline, and I have now started to sort my focus and thinking like, okay, now this is this event. You kind of have to split the worlds a little bit more, because everything's happening in your sofa. Whatever it is that you're doing, it's happening in the same place.
Yeah.
So,
I had that in the past weeks, because a lot of events moved and a lot of events stayed at these dates. And I also participated in more events than I would usually do, because I can be in 2 events at the same time. But that also is quite tricky for your planning, because like if you take meetings, I took meetings in parallel, I think in Fin Marseille and in Carlo Vivari. Mm-hmm. So I have to organize myself, and I have to make it clear to both platforms, which are different platforms, when am I actually available for which meetings where, and when am I going to see which pitch session where, which work in progress where, how do I juggle these things? And so even though I don't have the travel times, I don't need to go somewhere physically, but I still need to really, like, I'm really very good at the moment at keeping my digital agenda, which normally I have a handwritten agenda in my book. And I got off that because I constantly need the reminders, because also in this case, last 2 weeks ago, I had the case that I had a meeting. Then in the end, it worked out that, of course, they put the meeting sharp into my little slots that I had given there. So basically, I had a pitch session here, and then directly after that, I had a call on the other platform in another format to another project, and then going back to the other platform to the other format. So one was using FestiCine and one was using B Square. So you had to constantly log back and forth and trying to not be delayed for any meetings. Like in a physical event, you just sit at a table, and when you go a little bit over the time, everybody would see you and they will know, okay, she's still talking, but maybe I'll wave and I'll get her attention. But if you're online and you're not online, then people just don't know if you will actually show up, or are you lost in space, or where are you? And that makes it a bit stressful, I think, because you really have to be on time with everything. I also expect people to be on time, because otherwise I don't know in which orbit they are and if they will come or not. So it's that, I think, puts a lot of stress, because you have to juggle the formats and be on time everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And as I'm actually not a terribly well organized person, which both Marjorie and Martina know, having worked with me. I have other qualities, but like organization isn't necessary. I'm not bad at it, but I wouldn't say that it's like my natural thing. And so it's also been an interesting process of clarifying your own work processes. But the reason why I was asking the question is more also because one of the roles of these markets, as Yianna said, and maybe Yianna and Angeliki also have input for this question, but like one of the roles of the market, and the reason why Creative Europe kindly gives us the support to organize them, is to create the best promotion platforms for projects to reach the attention of decision makers or experts or co-financiers, or however you want to describe them. And so one of the things that I've been telling filmmakers is to not send mass emails, because especially if you're like Martina and you're at one of these large events and you're at 3 parallel events at the same time, I don't even open those emails now. I delete them. If it's not like, dear Brigid, how are you? Or dear Brigid, we've never met, or hi Brigid, I'm connecting you with this person who you've never met before. If that's not happening, then I can't keep up with the email traffic. So I wonder, maybe actually, Yianna and Angeliki, it's good for you to talk about your experience after Agora, and what you noticed about how, maybe some tips on how to connect with the decision makers in this digital sphere, how you can present yourself the strongest.
Well, from our part, I think that it really helped because we were, one of the first festivals to do it. So people were not that tired as they are right now, and it was much easier to reach out to them. But from my personal experience, as time goes by and I participate in several events, it gets really tiring and you keep forgetting, meetings, who you met with, the projects. It's getting really tough because it's completely different to be in the same table with somebody and to speak than to sit on your laptop and, have meetings with many people. So from that point of view, we were very lucky because, the feedback that we had from Thessaloniki was very positive because, people were at the beginning of this new situation and they had meetings, and we even have some results right now, from these meetings. But I think that as time passes by, it gets tougher and tougher to go on with that. I don't know, Angeliki or Ove, if you have something to add to this.
I mean, I think we can all agree that the basic thing that we are all missing from not networking on site is exactly that. The energy that you get from the other person, they have put the same amount of effort to be there. to book meetings, to meet with you. They know on the physical events, you know that you have your little table to meet with people, how much time, and then you can go to your happy hour and further discuss your project or meet some new people. So this whole factor is gone. I know that a lot of some markets have tried to recreate it online, which is a good idea, but I don't think it has the same, results.
No.
Yeah.
No, okay. Can I be a little bit different? I know that you are talking about markets, but in our case, the people develop projects. So for them, it kind of works because they spend a lot of time together. That is the difference.
Definitely.
So you think that it's better than, not better, but it can replace the actual physical events?
It cannot, but it's not going bad at all. The people work every day. I see that they send to each other a lot of work, more than they were doing actually here. And they somehow manage to combine it, and I don't hear complaints. They are always on time. They work 3 out of the 5 groups. They work as a groups with a TV that we have recreated a group to add the people who are online, and I think that they work. But the difference in our case is that we're doing development, so the people will really meet each other. They will meet the trainers. So they have time. It's not the same to go to a market and to have only 3 days to meet 30, 50 people. I don't know how many people you have.
Yes, the point is that even the markets, they're doing really well, I think.
I know.
The fact that everyone, the fact that Martina decides to do both markets on the same time, at the same time, it's good for the markets, and it's good because everyone keeps the effort going. They want to participate. They want to check out projects. They say, okay, I will be in 2 markets simultaneously. So I think people do show up. It's just that it's completely different from March when we started than what it's going to be in November for the fiction. Yeah. Also, the expectations are higher because a lot, you have more time to prepare, and you have time to check out what works and what doesn't. And then what you decide, it's going to be, let's say, evaluated, not criticized, but evaluated at least. So it is another level of pressure when you were already under pressure enough to have a good event that people would come and come back again and get the money from media, the funding, the support, and all of that. So now you have to do it digitally, and you have to be good at it.
But you are good, all of you. You're brilliant. Sorry, you are, and I think
no.
I don't want to be too good because I don't want Creative Europe, who we are so grateful for their support, and I'm so thankful that that we have them. But we don't want them to get the idea that this is the new reality. I think
exactly.
Yes,
that's really a mistake. There is as I said, there's an element of this work that is based on kind of human connection and some kind of destiny or faith in the system. And so on the one hand, it's a great moment because we can actually practice radical action. There's no reason for people who can't afford to travel or who can't get the visas or who have the physical disabilities to participate. And for me, it also means that it's a moment where you have to evaluate why you have accepted working in this violent status quo that violently oppresses certain groups, the non-English speakers, the people with physical disabilities in spaces that only have stairs, etc., etc. That you do have a moment to evaluate the worst parts of our work, which exist because we don't have equality, and have an opportunity to maybe use these new digital tools to bring new input, new people, new stories, new ideas into the programming. But I don't want to, not at the expense of meeting face to face, I hope.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And it's the thing that you said in the beginning, it's how you see the glass. So in a half full glass, let's say, we will definitely keep whatever worked. And there are, you know, new things that we discovered, all of us discovered during this thing, emotionally, working wise, and all of that. So, so definitely, like Eleni said, that they will keep the pitching, the pre-recorded pitching. There are a lot of things that we can use afterwards.
Also, we will keep
but not replace. Yeah.
Two more things we will keep for sure is the possibility for a producer to be on a meeting with a trainer on location with a Zoom, because producers are very busy creatures and maybe they're doing something so they cannot be here. And we will record the lectures to have them available immediately after they're done, so they can be viewed by the participants to get what happened. Since they are, we have a heavy schedule, and you know sometimes they work. So I think that we found a lot of things to keep. So I am the half full optimist, but I really want people to come back.
Yeah, we want to come back, girl. Don't worry. We would much prefer to be here.
And of course, we will. I also think that we will get there sooner than we hope, or at least that's what I want to believe.
So maybe I
want to say hello to everybody and make you a question. This is Lazaros and Dimitris from Nisiros. It's so nice to hear you and see you. Well, this meeting had a dramatic title, How to Survive Digital Shift of COVID-19. So let's talk a little bit about the future. Like, how do you see the things? We know that Venice is going to try to happen physically. What will happen with Thessaloniki? How and what do you think? What will happen if this situation continues? Like, because survival means to find a way to cure this fact that when people don't interact physically, you're losing this spontaneous effect that you have when you are in festival. Like, you know, collaborations and things may happen. People who know each other can come out with ideas. All this, whatever is spontaneous, is getting lost. So I would like to hear you, what do you think about the future in case that the future is going to, I don't know, in case that in next winter we have to go through another quarantine.
Yeah, may I begin? Actually, I wouldn't mind to start. So one of the most interesting outcomes of this of the first 6 months of the crisis is that in terms of the people who organize the events that you just mentioned, and also that we all attend in the year, we have started having new conversations around collaboration and about working together, which had never happened before, or not in the 10, 12 years that I've been working for film festivals and organizing markets, and not in the 10 years that I've had like a more leading role at Leipzig. So that means that we're all working together to try and sort that out, because there's like there are a few things involved in that. The first one is that clairvoyancy and visionary people are hard to find. There's actually like not a lot of us. There are interesting people doing interesting things, but to find people who can actually see the future is a really difficult challenge. And also the good thing is that people suddenly find themselves, because of this crisis, in a very honest moment where we don't actually have much left to say except for the truth, and you don't really have time to say things except the truth. And so maybe some of the less truthful parts of our industry are now being exposed, which actually is a really, for me, like as a troublemaker, like a really wonderful thing to be involved with and to observe. So that's really nice. So the first thing is that you can't expect everything to work immediately. Like the things that Martina also was describing, you know, about like Cannes functioning over 3 very confusing platforms, and not being centralized, or me deleting all of the mass emails that I would usually open from sales agents and production companies, or, you know, going to a bunch of speed dates that nobody turns up to because they can't find the links. You know, that we're really in a development process where we're trying to work out like how we can move forward, I would say. And I think that one of the most important things to keep with each other is the faith. Like, we have to have faith that we are all trying to go towards one goal together, and that is to make sure that we keep producing and distributing really exciting audiovisual works. So that's kind of my thought. But maybe I will start with Martina. I know you had your hand up. Did you want to say something first? Is it off the topic or on the same topic?
No, it was actually connecting also to what was just asked a little bit, and to what Yianna said earlier. It's this now remembering at what event and where did you meet which project and which person and so on. I think this is really a big challenge that is ahead, because now you're going anywhere but from your living room. But for me, when I go to an event, when I travel to a place, any project that I meet is also a little bit connected to that place.
Yeah.
And that helps me to remember, to memorize also the project and the people, because I remember the circumstances that I met them in. But now I'm meeting a lot of talking heads from living rooms, and I don't know, are they in Marseille? Were they actually in Marseille, or were they in Caluvivari? So I tend to take a lot of notes. So I have a lot of old scripts here that I'm writing on different papers, lots and lots of notes for every meeting that I have and for every panel that I attend to, and I don't have a clue how I'm going to put order to that at some point, and where to look. I mean, will I remember where to look? But my table at home is already full of papers, piles of papers, and I have to at some point try to put in a kind of a system to that, so that I really remember what are the outcomes and what are the key points. But that also tells me that because I'm taking so many notes, or why I'm taking so many notes, is not only to memorize the projects and the people that I'm talking to, but also a lot of thoughts that are confusing, I think, in our heads. And that refers to what you were mentioning earlier. It's a development process, and we're constantly, I think all of us, we're constantly thinking, what can I take away from this session? What works in this session? What doesn't work? Whose voice is difficult to hear? Who's like, how do you need to sit? How do you need to speak? How do you need to act when you're online? What's confusing in the background? And I think we're constantly, all of us who organize this, we're constantly monitoring every session that we attend to see what can I take away from this? Is there any good idea in this that I can use for the next ones? Marjorie and me were discussing a lot now for cottbus, like how are we going to do what? We have a lot of ideas floating around, but also it's and this still up in the air.
Yeah, I think this is really important to remember as participants. Like, all of these markets are idiosyncratic. You know, Berlinale is completely different to Coco. Coco is completely different to Doc Leipzig. Leipzig is completely different to IDFA. And of course, there are like crossovers in our interest groups. It's more like circles. So like there are overlapping parts of the circles of things that we have in common, and then these other different focuses. And I think also this market research and this knowledge that we had about, like, when I go to Leipzig, I behave this way and I would receive these things. Now we have to really relearn what happens at Doc Leipzig in an online reality. Because I think, like, unfortunately, the easy answer to your question is that we won't be traveling really until at least the end of the year. Sundance already has defragment or atomized. I think they were using the term. So now it's not just that the audience are atomized and we have a hard time finding them for our independent productions, but now like the industry itself has also atomized into like this digital space, which means that now we have to go looking for each other again, which is like totally crazy. And as an event organizer, you're kind of used to taking like a lot of information and trying to like to channel it and to make it clear and efficient so that you have the opportunity to do a lot of things, but in like the most efficient and clear way. And we're really trying to work out how to do that. I mean, I was going to actually use this opportunity also to ask you guys now we only have 2 minutes. Maybe we can just go 5 minutes longer. Is that okay?
Oh, Brigid, we can stay as long as you want. And as long as the conversation is going. In the schedule, we have until, I don't know, 8:30.
Okay.
And, you know, we can also take some questions for the people. But since the conversation is really going well, I don't see why we should, you know.
I'm more concerned about people's dinner plans.
Well, here, well, there's still time for that. 8:30 is okay in Nisiros. You will still find open restaurants.
So, but Marjorie, maybe you can tell us two or three sentences really quickly about what you plan for Coco.
Yeah, well, we decided relatively early, as I talked with you and with Martin and with Ove, that we would probably have to go online because the situation, and just going back to Dimitris as well, it's about surviving a situation that's external, you know, like it's some sort of, it's something that it's not possible to know how long it's going to last, and it's threatening. I mean, the more you read about all of these, consequences, long-term consequences of the illness that we didn't know before, and this and that, and you just feel lost, and it's just like, okay, it's better to just be in our living rooms and just stay here, and so survival is really, you have to learn how to use the online world to your advantage in a way.
Yes.
And finding each other, I definitely think we're investing more time in all of these meetings that used to be casual, that now have to have an online platform to take place. And so for Coco, I say, like, I also learned a lot from Focus Asia, with the feeling of when you are in an event, that you kind of have to feel the group with whom you are watching things, with whom you are watching a pitching session and have the possibility within that event also to connect with each other. And for me, that was, I mean, I had a very random reason to be there, but I could connect to other people that were also there for a random reason, or I just actually met, to catch up, you know, and then you just take a 20-minute slot from them. And that's one thing that I'm for sure gonna think about for Coco, because the participant to participant connection, that's what you get from the smaller events. You know, the smaller events actually allow you to have a conversation and sit down for a beer or whatever. So yeah, we're for sure gonna invest a lot of time on this, not just decision maker project communication and meeting arrangements, but also like peer-to-peer, kind of also like involving this 20% of newcomers to speak with each other, to get to know each other. And that's the good thing about, you know, like, depending on how many people you can gather for these sessions, you can transmit this group feeling, you know, like it happens here in Nisiros. If you have these classrooms and stuff, you know, you can give the idea of there's something else other than the online stuff, you know. You have this kind of group which is already, let's say, eingespielt, you know, kind of each other. And,
for us, it really worked that we had group locations. But again, we are a development program and not a market. But also another thing that maybe, I don't know how to phrase it, I think maybe you should spread a little bit the events that you do on more days. I don't really know why it comes to mind, but I think if the meetings are a lot and frustrating, you should really try to spread them a little bit in the online version. That comes just as a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we'll do at Leipzig as much as we can also, because usually the industry program is concentrated over 3 days. But this year we take the liberty actually to fill up the 5 days.
And make groups of people, that's all.
And I think also it's interesting, what I realized also for me, I had a very successful Cannes, I think, but I also didn't take any meetings, so maybe that's why. Which also sounds insane, but you can go to Cannes and not take any meetings. There are ways to do it, and you can still get access to the things that you need. But the reason why it was successful is because it has a very charming project manager, and he really made himself very available for the week. You know, he was always there. You could always reach him, and we would always send each other WhatsApps about things. And so I felt very connected with my community. I was in my living room, which was annoying, but you know, I threw 2 dinners. Because I always throw dinners. And so I decided I would do it anyway, because I like to have fun. You know, I don't like everything to be dry. I need the fun factor, or else I won't come. So that was important to me. And so for Leipzig, that's also something that will carry now into my planning. We will have a help desk that's open almost 24 hours a day for people in different time zones. And we will also have an introduction session where we'll also introduce the platform and explain how you access the content. So for me, in German, there's this wonderful word that's selbstverständlich, which means help me a German, self-evident, I guess.
That's
or
okay.
Obvious.
It's a given, yeah.
Yeah, but nothing is. That's what I've realized. Just because and because we're talking about it all day doesn't mean that, you know, some commissioner from Arte or some producer from Moravia or whatever is as embedded in this digital world now as I am. So I'm always trying, as an event organizer, I'm always trying to put myself in the shoes of being a guest. I'm just trying to think from their perspective about how to create these kind of streamlined paths to navigate the platform so that they can access the content. Also, so that we don't produce things that don't get used. That's my biggest fear. My fear is that you create this whole slate of wonderful things, and then they're so impenetrable that nobody can get in to use them. And I'm doing radio for the first time. I'm doing a series of podcasts. We're doing 8 podcasts together with the programmers of Color Collective and Queer Programmers Association and a few other people on trying to use this digital revolution as a moment also for decolonizing the market, which is really interesting and really fun. And somebody said to me that radio is the ultimate tool of resistance. And so I was like, let's get people away from their screens. Let's give them things that they can put in their cell phones and take with them. So when you're in front of your screen, you're just there for meetings. And when you want the knowledge transfer, then you can use the audio files. But Martina, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, first of all, I wanted to refer to that you need to explain things. I mean, I think all of us, we have our texts that we send every year, how does it work, when do you arrive, where do you get what, and so on. And we really need to, if we do something different, we really need to rework them. I had this recently I'm just in Polish days as well, this week. And last week they asked everybody to request the meetings, and then I thought, well, but there's no link in the email. Where do I actually request the meetings? So I went to their website, to the festival website, and I didn't find anything. And I logged in with my old login. That was difficult because I have always different addresses and so I figured that out, and I logged in and I didn't find anything. And then I found out that I asked them, and then they sent an email to everybody explaining where is the platform where you actually request the meetings. And I was maybe just too fast, or maybe I was too stupid because I didn't realize before that it was not on their website but somewhere else. And then today I was going to see a film, and then I was also like, but how do I actually get to see the film? Yeah. So the events are also, they're sending a lot of emails, and every event sends a lot of emails. So I found it at some point, and then I found out, okay, they're organizing the meetings on B Square and they're organizing the screenings on Festival Scope. But you need to find out this, and you need to really communicate that. So I think any introduction session that you do for people can only be helpful to find out, for people to find their way. The other question that I had was to you, but also to Angeliki and Yianna, about the question that came up earlier from the MFI meeting room about the spontaneous events and the social events. I mean, you said you are going to throw dinners, Brigid, but then a dinner usually, I mean, if you throw it, you collect the people that are around you, and then you say, let's go for dinner. How are you going to do that in an event where you have so and so many people attending? Is just anybody gonna join, or?
Okay, well, Doc Leipzig by nature is a very unsexy event in a very unsexy place. So when you invite people to an unsexy place, you have to find ways to like engage them with the process, let's say. So actually in Leipzig, I have a specific guest list usually. I say like, keep Thursday night free for me, we go for dinner. And then I try also to invite guests who wouldn't meet each other otherwise. So I bring people from like North America to people from like, you know, Central Asia who just have like or from Iran or something, who have a more difficult time meeting each other face to face in the real world. So you know, if someone's going to invest the time to come to Leipzig, it's also, you have to usually fly to Berlin and then take the car or the train. It's like, it's a trickier process to get there than it is to say Berlinale. And because it's small enough, we only have 2,000 accredited guests, you can kind of curate those spaces. And then the other thing at Cannes during the Berlinale, also, I also have we have like a WhatsApp group, like a work WhatsApp group with like other festival organizers and some sales agents and some directors and stuff. And so I was using that WhatsApp group to share links around, and then we would just see who would come to those. But of course, it's not the same as like walking down the street at 8 o'clock in Cannes and just sitting at a table with a bunch of people who you know, for sure. And on the one hand, like, I don't want to waste people's time. So I don't want to do things that are a waste of time if it's not good. So it's also about getting the balance right, and also not doing everything. Like at film festivals, like 6 o'clock is usually an important hour. It's like the time when the work is done and you have the drink, and then you work out like what your plans for the evening will be. And it's when you make new friends or catch up with old friends. But 6 o'clock in the real world is like a deeply inconvenient time, especially for people who have like kids, because it's like, you know, the hangry hour where you need to like feed them and also find out what they've been doing during their days, I assume. So for me also, I try not to be trying to work out ways to be non-discriminatory, you know, so to have also coffee hours at 10 a.m. so people from Southern Hemisphere can connect with Northern Hemisphere, and moms don't have to feed their kids. Or I mean, which they can also do during the networking events, I don't mind, but it's probably not as much fun. Yeah.
And Angeliki, Yianna, what kind of plans do you have for Thessaloniki? Are you going to include also like social events, or are you more trying to stick to the content formats, let's say?
It's really tricky, to tell you the truth. It's very tricky because to the social events that I've participated during, you know, these months, to tell you the truth, it was very boring for me. Because I'm completely honest, because I was at home and with, you know, a glass of wine or whatever, and it didn't mean anything to be there in a Zoom meeting from my home, and to try to be, you know, to try to discuss things with other people from all around the world, but at an inconvenient time, because usually these things take place, you know, after 6 o'clock, as Brigid just said, and you want to do other things at that time when you're at home. And especially if you spend your whole day in a Zoom meeting from the morning, you are very tired. And I don't think that, you know, anybody really wants to participate in these social online events. But on the other hand,
I do.
You do?
There are people.
If I can just add one little thing to that. I mean, in Locarno, we're doing this, for example. I think with the social events thing, it's important to have a limited amount of time. You know, like if you do an icebreaker, it's 1 hour. And after an hour, you really say, okay, that's it, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, it's things are spreading a lot, you know, like especially if you have preparation and stuff that you used to hold during the event, people are putting it a week before or 2 weeks before and things like that, and then, you know, things kind of get too stretched, and you know, like even if it's just a few days, but it helps the logistics, but you still need, you know, more time all together to be in this mood of this event, you know. But really, like social events, I find if they're time limited in time, people, you know, people can, there's no other way. This is all we have, you know.
Yeah. I find it more convenient to have, you know, a social event, let's say, for half an hour, but during the meetings. So during the lunch break, I think it's better to, you know, to organize something like a free time to have an informal discussion with other colleagues, but not during nights. You know, after 6 o'clock, I don't think that it works for me, at least.
I mean, for us, the disappointing part is that, you know, Thessaloniki and the market is a place, you know, where you can get good films, good projects, good people, but also a wonderful location, warm weather, and good food. So the last three things, unfortunately, we have to recreate somehow.
So you sorry, about Thessaloniki and Crossroads, have you completely ruled out a part that will be on location? Sorry, because you just said about the beautiful location.
So the official answer is that we are still trying to see what we can do physically. The thing is that
you don't know.
No, for this, I'm not very optimistic about Crossroads. I think 90%, I think it will happen online.
Okay.
There are going to be some market events that people living in Greece most probably can attend to in Thessaloniki. But in terms of international guests, I think it will be tricky. We need to see by September what's happening after the summer season in Greece as well, because we're doing fine right now, but we will have the result in a month. So one thing that is also tricky for us is that in Thessaloniki, we never did a pitch. So it was one-on-one meetings straight away, besides the last 2 years that we had a very, very small presentation at the opening, where you just, the director and the producer were just saying hello in front of a mood picture, just for the industry guests to put a face on the project. So this we need to change if we do it online. So we will have to do a pitching session, and I think we have decided, Yianna, to do a pre-recorded pitching session. From all of these markets that I have been, I think it's the one that you can have most control over. The other thing that I wanted to add when you were saying about the formats, etc., and about moving the date, we decided not, our dates are during the week, and on the weekend we don't have anything for the market. And we thought for a moment to maybe change something in terms of the days, and then we realized with Yianna that we don't want to put people to work during the weekend.
Yeah.
So this is also to answer also Martina's question. I think about the social events, I think when you do it online, of course it's important to think about how to connect the people. But I think it has to be during working hours, and because afterwards they need to feed the kids, they need to prepare for the next day, and maybe they have some other things to deal with because they are at home. They're not in Thessaloniki or in Leipzig, and they haven't left all of this behind.
Sorry, I just want to applaud that, and I totally agree with both what Yianna and both what Angeliki just said. I think that it's a bit weird, those social events, they don't really work.
We need to find a way to work. Maybe this is the challenge.
I
Right,
think
guys?
what connects the thread for me, for us, what we found here, I don't know if it's generally truth, the work unites. The random thing that you don't know who you're speaking to and why, and you don't really have the time to get to know, it's a bit, it has a lot of chances to fail.
Yeah, but it's also about moderation. So we moderate. We did these hangouts for. I've done a bunch of them now for hot docs, and then also for Kandok, and we do them in Leipzig as well. And I'll also do them through the Durban International Film Festival at the end of the month, where we limit it so only 25 people can come to each hangout, so that you have one screen. So everybody is on the screen, everybody can see each other. And it only goes for 1 hour and then it's over. And in the hour, essentially all you can do is just like introduce yourself and tell what your projects are or what you're looking for. And then everybody shares their contact details in the chat, and then we export the chat and email it to the people who participated. And then it just gives people the opportunity to poke around a little bit in the guest list. But it's also, it will never replace the same thing of like going into the museum or to the conference room in the hotel or wherever the festival center is located and being together. You know, it will never.
I mean, we do have.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, George.
Since markets basically are a service for producers and directors to have their films funded through an existing international funding structure.
Mm-hmm.
And since that funding structure is now changing due to the coronavirus, how do you as a market think about changing the way you operate to reflect the changes in the market?
I would love to know this from the fiction perspective also, but for us, we're always changing. Every year the guest lists change. Every year the formats are updated, because you have to work also. You can't just tell the producers what you think they need. You have to listen to what they tell you and adapt based on their needs and their wishes. And also, unfortunately, I mean, we're using the opportunity to engage in a new and more meaningful way with Asia and North America to bring those partners in. But I don't know, maybe Martina, you've been quiet. Have you been thinking about this or?
Not my own, yes, not so much yet, because also for us, we are still watching what is happening and how things are developing. So we are maybe not as far as most other events in that respect. And then with regard to the funding landscape, I think it's a bit hard to say at this point what is happening everywhere, because there's no clear, for me, there's also no clear path what would change. I think that, I mean, co-productions in general might be changing in the future. That is being discussed in a lot of events as well. So we're going to have to watch that, how will this affect the future for co-productions in general, like how can people cooperate between different countries when travel is not possible and so on. So these are topics that definitely are going to be on our agendas for the markets to come. I'm thinking, but I wouldn't say now that we expect that there's not going to be any funding from any country in the next year. I'm pretty hopeful that a lot of the funds that are being put up now are extra funds. And I mean, we are all familiar with the discussion that maybe there are too many films and maybe one should reduce a little bit the amount of projects that are being shopped around at other places. So these are definitely things that I think we are all constantly thinking about. It's not necessarily an entirely new thing due to the crisis. It might be a bit, how do you say, accelerated now at this point. But were you referring to anything in particular in terms of funding, like any particular decision from funds that were saying now we won't have any funding for the next years, or was it just was it more a general question over?
Well, I guess it depends a little bit where you are. I mean, in the Nordic countries, a lot of the bigger film funds decided to put more money into development simply because production is so difficult.
Yes,
Right.
that's true.
But that's, I mean, that's definitely a good thing. That I think all of us will agree that it's good to have more money in development, and then having projects hopefully come to markets when they're ready.
Yeah, and the another thing is also like markets are, you know, places where you have a relatively limited like realization rate, you know, like we all work with about 50%, something like this, you know. About 50% of the projects that come actually get made, and the putting money into development also keeps funding the creative process, but then the funds themselves, I mean, and I'm talking about the fund here in Berlin and in Germany, they are really struggling with the craftsmen, you know, like all of these people that are out of jobs because of their lack of shooting, you know, like the sound people, the script people, the dress people, the costume people, etc., etc. So it's like in general, I think we haven't had a taste yet of the real economic impact of the crisis right now in the creative sector or in general in the economies of the countries. And there are some countries that have more healthy economies, I say, than others. In the north, I think we're a little bit more lucky than in other countries. And I'm just saying, for example, I don't know what the situation is going to be in the USA. I don't know what it's going to be in Asia. I don't know, for example, in Latin America, everything is stopped for months, and the numbers have not started going down. So there's been like like in Europe in general, we have a very privileged situation at the moment, and we have a situation in which shooting is starting again. You have a lot of public support. You know, people who haven't had a job, they get like these injections of money, you know, to be able to survive, pay their rent and things like this. But then you talk about the situation in the USA, you know, for example, they don't have a public funding system. People are getting evicted of their apartments when in Europe laws are being passed about how people are gonna get like rent breaks for as long as they don't have a job and things like that, you know. So it's like the industry, the creative industries, and I can also say stuff about, you know, like theater and music, you know. I think we have the part of the audiovisual industry that is dedicated for entertainment, and then you have the streamers who are starting to play a bigger role now, and the so-called streaming wars suddenly started, you know. like there's no how will it be, no, we're in the middle of it. And then you have the subsidized part, you know, we pretty much work in this art house thing that is slowly starting to become more similar to the funding system for the opera, for you know, because it's the amount of money being put in to these productions is relatively, I mean, it's higher usually than the amount of money coming back, you know, regarding audiences, you know, and how much money is coming back through the box office and things like this. So it's become, I don't know, it's a very complicated system, and I can just go on talking and talking, but I actually have to leave in a few minutes because of the feeding kids part thing. And
but I think you say something really important there. Like, we're in the middle of this at the moment, and so we don't actually we don't know yet. We're still working it out. And I also have a second job or a second role as like we just started a new pan-European organization for documentary professionals working in the sector, and people in March were saying like, you've got to do a study and find out what's going on. And it's like, but there is nothing going on, like there's no data yet. So what you're asking me to do is to collect people's fears. Like, I'm not going to perpetuate fear until we know what's happening. And for me also, it feels a little bit like 2008, like when there was like this financial crash, but the crash hadn't like touched us yet. Like the crash really came then in 2010 and 11 in the audiovisual industries, of like really affecting output and affecting productions and affecting budgets. And the second more insidious level of this crisis is, of course, the political one. You know, like we already see what's happening in Hungary and Ukraine and other places. And when there's a disruption also to this subsidized world that we live in, as Marjorie said, like the knock-on effect can be really, really terrible, I think. not to end on a negative point, but
Yeah.
are there any more questions from the audience or from my esteemed colleagues?
Well, I also wanted to say that maybe we need to give some room to the participants.
Can I just say something regarding Crossroads and MFI? Because we have a collaboration with MFI and we are selecting one project, but since the dates moved, the deadline for Crossroads was July 20. And for the MFI participants, it is open until August 10.
Thank you very much, Angeliki.
Up there, and yeah, maybe I can.
And also, let me contribute in what you wanted to say, that we will arrange a meeting for you in the next 2-3 days, so you will be able to see all the participants that are eligible, to let them know.
Then I won't, I mean, I can share here.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Since we're gonna do meetings, I'm not gonna clutter the chat box. It's okay.
Okay.
I mean, I also would just encourage the participants, like if you are participating in like a market platform and you have feedback for us, like you can be very honest. You can say, this and this didn't work for me, this and this was good. You know, like you don't have to tell us everything is good. We won't like not select your project again in the future if you say like, I didn't like this part, because we won't be, or I won't be personally offended. I can't speak for the others, but I know for me, like we really need like hands-on information right now. We really we need to be in constant dialogue with each other.
Yes.
Because I have a real issue with time wasting. I hate wasting time. I hate having like my time wasted and wasting the time of others. So the more, like, as I said, we can be in this very honest dialogue about our needs, I think like the quicker we can actually come to some good solutions.
And I just want to say one last positive word, and because I really have to leave in like 1 minute, but I say, going back to the title of this thing, we will survive. I have the feeling if we put energy into it and really like look at what's going on, like staying awake, putting our feelers out, and just really keeping up with the time, you know, I think it's like kind of like you want to dance and we're going to survive, and we stick together, and let's see what comes out. We're in the middle.
I totally agree. I think that like parts of our industry are absolutely archaic and there's no reason to continue doing it. And I think also, I was talking to somebody about this week, there's a mismatch of values, because the most of like the liberal people working in this subsidized sector, as Marjorie called it, are like people who care about the environment, who care about like, you know, gender discrimination, ableism, who consider themselves to be anti-racist, and yet we work in this system that is so violently oppressive and bad for the environment, and like there's a bucket list of things that we want to change. So it gives us a moment to actually change them, which is exciting. Yeah, I don't know, maybe that's a good place to leave it, but thank you so much for coming. It's so nice to see you all.
Yes, but Brigid, give me a second.
Yes.
I really have to leave before the question.
Hello, Marjorie. Hello, Marjorie.
Take care. Thanks.
We are probably not. Hello.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye. It's probably a very good place to leave it, but we have not given like one pause to really listen if there is a question out there from the filmmakers themselves, the people who, you know, and I think it's really time, even if it's like a little pause. Nuria most of the time asks questions. I don't know if now is the day or the time, but generally I think let's avoid the too much information part, and, you know, give it a second to see if somebody feels like asking something, and then I want to give you some feedback on what you asked.
I'm good today. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuria. Nuria is the best. She's really the person with the most positive air and questions. She's asking questions. I see some people nodding over there. Okay. So yes, I think at this point we can call it a day. On my part, I have to say that I really enjoyed this conversation between you. It was like watching titans really talking about what's very, very important for our participants and for ourselves and our lives and the industry. So I really want to thank you for that. Brigid, you are my hero.
Anytime. It's also to my colleagues from the other markets. It is a wonderful time to be alive, because it's very nice to talk about like nuts and bolts of our work, which I do find fascinating. So it's also really nice to hear from you guys and see you. And I would, as I said, much prefer to be doing it on the island of Nisiras with some olives and a glass of wine, but that's okay.
Next year, it's going to be a date, and we're going to make it up, and we're going to make it happen.
Yes.
So, we do what we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's applaud. Okay, guys, thank you for showing up. I will see you first thing in the morning. Angeliki, I owe you an email with the setting of the meeting. It will happen. It's been a lot, and you know it, but it's going very well.
Good, that's nice. Very nice to hear.
Yeah, it is. And also, Brigid, if you want that little piece of feedback that you were asking, I'm going to tell you that I was in Vision du Réel. I loved it. I really loved the award ceremony, and it was very nice to be there. For me, it was not a good thing. That's a personal thing. When they started switching to put people to random places, because I had my baby also crying. So, I said, and then I logged off. And that's for real. I agree with what Yianna said. I also asked the people here, I told them, do you want me to do an online thing so you mingle the group A with group B? And they said no.
Yeah.
They said, we have the group, it's enough. We are united. It's a bit, boring. And the people on the island, we're jealous of them. That was real. So I'm just saying that, that this is a thing.
I think it's important to recognize the emotional connection that people have to this and to respect it. I think that's good. Like if someone says we're jealous, you should tell us. You shouldn't be too proud to express your emotional inner self.
For that, yes, we made a group to make them more jealous, because we believe that this connects, that we are here. You were not, but we will make it up to you, rather than hiding the facts that we do.
Yeah.
So I don't know, guys. I really, because the things are serious, I like to feel the energy from you, and I think yes, that we have to make it work.
I agree.
A big virtual hug to everybody. A lot of people are still online. We made an impact, girls. People, they don't know what to ask, but they don't leave the room.
Okay, I'm leaving then.
Okay, Angeliki.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Angeliki.
Thank you, Yianna.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.